Which athlete do you think is actually Asian?
Well, I like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, what do you think, Dwayne?
Well, I mean, usually that'd be the team manager. No, I'm just teasing. I'm teasing. I would, even though, I mean, this guy passed away, but in a way, you could say Koji almost had like not Koji, excuse me, Kobe.
I was going to say Kobe.
I was going to say Kobe too. Is
that right?
Everyone wants to believe Kobe.
Well, he had it was like he was his own dragon mom, kind of tiger mom, excuse me. So like, that's why.
So he had like two spirits inside of him. Like one was a tiger mom and then one was him.
But there are a lot of great Asian athletes.
Oh, certainly.
Like definitive. The greatest baseball player in the world right now is an Asian athlete.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Michael Chang.
Or is he black?
Oh, right.
Why did I just blank on his name? Who am I thinking of?
Shohei Ohtani.
Ohtani. Yeah.
Plus, Kobe is Kobe, beef.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he was named after,
he's actually maybe Japanese.
It's a Japanese name.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely a lot of like Japanese lore with Kobe.
I thought he was Italian too, though.
No, his dad played in Italy.
Okay.
So he speaks in Italy. Yeah, he's not a Japanese. But that's one of the reasons why he didn't get along with the other players, was that there was kind of a difference because he didn't grow up in the hood. He didn't have the same experiences. That's why Phil Jackson gave him this book called White Boy Shuffle. Have you guys ever heard of that book? No. It's this amazing book. It's like one of the best books, and Kobe just didn't want to read it because Kobe was being an asshole. But it would be perfect because the book was about this guy, this African-American kid who was like this basketball prodigy, but he was also incredibly smart, like Einstein smart. And so he went to this black school and everyone thought he was a nerd. And they made fun of him. So then his mom was like, fuck this. Let's go to like a private school. So he goes to a private school and everyone there thinks he's only a basketball player. They think he's a stupid basketball player.
Right.
And so everywhere he goes, he just felt totally not clicking with the group.
Right.
And so like that was Kobe, because Kobe is too smart to kind of like for the other basketball players, and he's kind of like doesn't get along. And so it was like Kobe should have read it because it would have totally changed his mind. It's by Paul Beatty, by the way.
So wait, he didn't read it?
No.
I like how his white coach was like, "You're not black enough, coach." It also kind of reminds me. I was working when I lived in New York. I worked for like this Orthodox Jewish, like this is like during college. Worked for like this Orthodox Jewish catering service in Brooklyn, where like everyone working there was such an idiot. Felt like I was the guy that like the person in charge relied on the most because I was like the most responsible person in the catering thing. And I was living with like this super like gay, hot actor guy that worked in, he's like, "Oh, you do catering? Well, let me get you in with our catering company." And he got me in for like one of these high paying catering jobs. And on the first job, the guy in charge pulled me aside. He goes, "Can I talk to you for a second?" And he goes, "You might be the worst caterer I have ever seen in my entire life. Get out." Wow. And it's like in the Orthodox Jewish Brooklyn catering thing, I was Mr. Responsibility.
Wow.
And at like this high-end, like New York, Upper West Side catering place, I was the worst caterer he has ever seen.
Oh, no.
Wow. It's
Context
all...
is everything.
Well, so for Phil Jackson, it was more about like, or in this book was more about a guy who feels out of place and how he used like people's perceptions of him to like say something about who he really was, and that nobody really understood because everyone saw something. And so like I think Phil was just saying, hey, it's okay. I know like you don't really get along with other players. You don't really do this. You don't really do that.
Right.
Like this is a way for him to kind of start to mentally think of like to
But that
wrap his
probably
head around.
made him a better basketball player because he was just like, I'm just going to be really good at this thing.
But he also
and I'm
pissed
just
off
gonna
all
go
his teammates.
inward.
All his teammates hated him.
It's like me in the comedy scene. Everyone hates me, but I'm the best. All you gotta do is, come for the crown, baby. Come for the crown.
Welcome to the Unofficial Official Story Podcast. This is episode 1 of season 5. What? Join us as we dive into the quirky, mysterious, and bizarre. From unsolved mysteries to peculiar pop culture phenomena, we uncover hidden stories and explore alternate realities. My name is Kat Kobe Bryant. Alvarado.
Hi, I'm Dwayne Fish Hunter. His first name is Cat, actually. Was a baseball player called Catfish Hunter. It's one of my favorite names. Yeah, I'm Dwayne Fish Hunter today.
And I'm Koji Gaylord Perry because that's
very
my
nice, very
baseball.
nice.
I really enjoyed how Kat was reading off the script, and when she got to her name, seemed like she couldn't read her name. that was personally, I'm Josh commenting everything Edelman.
Got a theory or a mystery you want us to explore? Send it our way, and we might feature it in an upcoming episode.
Being that it's April, we're celebrating the opening of the Dodgers back-to-back World Championship season. I'm just saying. You guys aren't Dodger fans.
We're starting off the Dodgers back-to-back World
Right.
Honestly, probably, even as a Yankee fan that hates you guys for like 10 different reasons now.
It's probably the same. Yeah,
probably.
And my stepdad rewatches Yankee fans crying
me
about
too.
the Dodgers winning over and over.
I like the Dodgers, and I was rooting for the Dodgers to play the Yankees in the World Series. But game one fell on the night of like my hardest to produce, most expensive, like need people to show up comedy show and just ruined it.
Oh,
and I was like so livid because the show normally sells out. And this is like, it was my Halloween show, which is like my favorite show I produce all year. And like last year it had like 120 people at it. This year I had like 11 tourists that didn't speak good English. And it was the worst. And I was like, I cursed the dog. And then on top of it all, Freeman hits that home run that wins the game at the very end. So the Yankees couldn't even win. It was the worst night ever.
It was almost done after that.
No, it was done after that. It was done at that time.
We needed that game.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, the Major League Baseball season with a very important question. Was Babe Ruth actually black?
He is Josh Edelman. He's also a comedian, a filmmaker, and a magician. What else do you do, buddy?
Well, that covered it.
Well, you're a podcaster too, right?
I'm planning to restart my podcast.
Okay, but you also are a filmmaker who made a documentary.
I made a documentary called Mentally Owl, which the New York Times picked as the best comedy documentary of 2021.
What was it about?
It's about this comedian named Al Lubell, who's
I know Al Lubell.
You know Al?
Yeah.
He's a genius, right?
Yeah.
He's like
absolutely.
the funniest person in the world.
We should get him on the show.
And
He's a New Yorker.
Kind of just like, I saw him when I was young, and I was like, how is this guy not the most famous comedian in the world? And then I got to know him, and I was like, oh, this is why.
Right.
And made a movie about it.
That's great. I didn't know that. He's got one of these names that people like saying. You know what I mean?
Well,
He likes saying.
Yes, right.
One of the brilliant things about Al is Al's able to do. Al currently does a show. Al Lubell talks about his name for an hour and 25 minutes and about something else for 5 minutes. And when he gets to the 5 minutes about something else, he goes, you know what? I just kind of want to talk about my name more. So how brilliant do you have to be as a comedian to be able to do an hour and a half of material on just your name?
Yeah.
And it's not only an hour and a half of material on just his name. It's a brilliant, nonstop, hilarious hour and a half. It's like, you want him to stop, but you're also kind of like, it is good. It doesn't stop being good. Why do I want him to stop? And that's kind of like the conundrum of him.
Nice. I got to check that out.
When did you know you wanted to be a comedian?
I mean, it's weird. It almost feels, for me, it almost feels like both being a comedian and being a filmmaker were things I just always was. I don't know how to like put it, but as a kid, it's just like, I am these things. They were my pronouns, comedian / filmmaker.
Nice.
Like it is like a greater calling that just, it felt like they're the only options. So I don't even know when was the moment I thought I want to be this. It just kind of always felt like I was.
And did you play baseball?
Very little. I was much more of a
Fan.
basketball and tennis player, but I'm a big baseball fan.
Who's your favorite player?
Favorite player, baseball, Derek Jeter.
Oh my goodness.
I'm a Yankee.
So cliche.
That's who I grew. That was the coolest guy on my favorite team growing up.
That makes
That's
sense.
who
That
you're
makes
gonna
sense.
love.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I like Jeter, but he's not my favorite Yankee ever.
Who's
That's
your
like me
favorite
saying
Yankee?
my favorite Laker is Kobe Bryant. Like, don't make
But
me
Probably.
that's right. That's
Right.
what most people in LA, you ask them who their favorite basketball player is, they're going to say Kobe Bryant.
Kobe Bryant's not my favorite basketball player.
Are you a Laker fan?
I'm a season ticket for like 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's mostly because he's just not a fun person to watch. I've watched so many games of his.
He's too good.
No.
He's too good.
No.
at
What you
basketball.
love about him as a person is that like that killer that I don't care and you're going to do. If he misses 70 shots one game, he's going to shoot 200 the next game. But that's also what you hate about him is like sometimes you're just like, Kobe, trust your teammates. Pass the fucking ball.
So you like LeBron?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like LeBron.
I love LeBron. LeBron's my.
You know, and the one thing that I will say about Kobe that's interesting is that if you watch him in a fight, like when he's about to get in a fight on the court, all his teammates are walking back to the bench. And like somebody like Ron Artest or Meta World Peace or whatever, like when he got in the fight, every single player went in the stands with it. They love that.
Even a hot dog vendor.
Yeah.
Wow.
Whereas, you know, like, I mean, like, literally,
I believe
I would watch Kobe, like, get in a fight with, like, Allen Houston or something, and, like, everyone's just walking back. And
Right.
They don't even care. Like, the best player on their team was, like, they don't give a shit about it.
But, you know, that's, I know, a little off topic. That's almost like within the tragedy of him dying, that is like the second tragedy because
he changed.
It felt like he was ready for his act 2 in life, where he was a kinder, nicer person.
He became the grandpa of basketball. Like, he totally changed his personality.
Yeah.
He was sharing what he knew with people and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah. Who's your favorite Yankee?
Probably Don Mattingly, and a close second, Willie Randolph.
Wow.
Yeah, Willie Randolph back in the day. So,
Kat, who's your favorite baseball player, Kat?
I don't have one, you guys. I barely ever watch baseball.
I'm sorry.
Ever. So I'm really unqualified to be on this podcast. But that's why I suggested Josh, because I felt like, you know what? Josh has double the amount of baseball fandom. He'll carry this for me.
Babe Ruth, born George Herman Ruth Jr. on February 6th, 1895 in Baltimore, Maryland, is one of the most iconic figures in American sports history.
known as the Bambino and the Sultan of SWAT, Babe's career in Major League Baseball spanned 22 seasons from 1914 to 1935. He began as a star left-handed pitcher for the Boston Red Sox, but achieved legendary status as a slugging outfielder for the New York Yankees.
Babe's prodigious home run hitting ability revolutionized the game, helping to usher in the live ball era and boosting baseball's popularity. His larger-than-life personality and rags-to-riches story made him a beloved figure, and he was one of the first 5 inductees to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1936.
So I have a random Babe Ruth fact. He swung a 40-ounce bat. That's crazy.
Is that really heavy?
That's like a piece of wood. Like nowadays, like players, major leaguers are probably, 34,
What's up with
ounces.
this new bat that
The
everyone's
torpedo
using?
bat?
Torpedo?
Yeah.
The Yankees.
Is that fair?
Aaron Judge is
or-
hitting that's turned Aaron Judge into Barry Bonds.
Are they going to eliminate that?
No,
you think?
it's legal. So what's interesting about it is you can buy it online. You can buy it now, but the issue is that what the Yankees did, which makes sense, is they looked at the analytics and they said, okay, this guy hits the ball right here on a bat. Out of 10,000 at bats, he usually hits it right here. And so then they built that to be the biggest part of the bat. So the problem with if you go buy the bat on the street is that it's not meant for you.
Yeah, you don't necessarily hit the ball on that part of the bat.
Yeah. But if you do, then the ball's going to go. Because the thing about wood, so random inside baseball, if you use a wood bat, the sweet spot is like maybe 2 inches.
Mm-hmm.
When you use like a aluminum bat, like a little league bat or something, it's the whole bat. It's because it's aluminum. So you can hit pretty much anywhere and it's going to go. So that's why I like when you get to like 13 or 14, when you start using like bats that are like more like those kinds of bats, you could see the real hitters. Because before, like as a 10-year-old, if you're fat and you just touch the ball goes far. But as you get older, you start getting like where it's like an inch or two, and all of a sudden, and so like the torpedo bat's even more so. It's like it's just where you hit the ball right there.
Right.
Like the sweet
Right.
spot
But
is
it's
more consolidated. But if you hit it on the sweet spot,
It's
Right,
gonna
right.
go far.
Right.
But hitting a baseball is still the hardest thing to do.
I think they say it's the hardest.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing to do in all sport. My thing about Babe Ruth too is that he didn't look superly athletic. His running, I mean, I know he was great, and eye-hand coordination means a lot, goes for a lot, but
I do think it's interesting. I feel like when I look back at pictures of Babe Ruth, like we call him fat and stuff. We look at him, and he's not really as fat as like we call him. He's like probably in shape. I feel like everyone looks kind of fat in baseball clothes.
that's something. Yeah,
Like, I'll tell
for
you
sure.
something. So Paul O'Neill?
Yeah.
I remember I was on vacation and Paul O'Neill was at the hotel.
Oh, wow.
And we were at the pool. And this is like 10 years after Paul O'Neill was retired. And he had his shirt off at the pool and he was the biggest, strongest person I have ever seen in my life.
Right.
And I am like, this is 10 years after he was no longer good enough to play baseball. And he looks like this. Like the physical shape that these guys are in that are playing, people underestimate what it
The average
takes.
Major League Baseball player is 6'2", 205.
Yeah.
So like as a parent of a
That's
baseball player,
brilliant.
like I have a chart that I show parents what a D1, a D2, a D3 baseball player, what a Major League Baseball player looks like. So for example, my son's a catcher. Average height for a Major League catcher is 5'11", 5'10". D1 catchers are 5'10", but it's 180 to 220. So it's like a big like
Do you remember
running back.
when Jordan played baseball, he had to like change his body a bit.
Yeah.
Wow.
You
He had to like
very
put
different.
on some weight and
Hmm.
yeah. You need that.
Is your
trunk.
kid those sizes?
He's going to be, I mean, if he had to be 6'2", he wouldn't work.
Okay.
But as a 5'10", 5'11", that's why he's a catcher.
A big hitter?
Yeah, he's a big hitter. He's more known for his catching than his hitting, but he's an elite hitter as well.
I don't know, though. Whatever you say about Babe Ruth, he was kind of pudgy. I was looking at the pictures. I'm like, nah, this is not an in-shape man. There's
Also
no
back then there was a different perception of how do you like baseball, like for example, you might have to have another job.
The thing too is he may have been so much better than everyone else that it may have been a blessing if he wasn't super duper in shape. Because he might have hit 70 home runs.
I mean, that's like Luka.
Yeah.
Like Luka or like Jokic. Like you look at those guys.
I think he looks pretty
pretty
jacked and regular.
That's a lean.
That's a very
that's when he's
specific
lean
thing.
and lean.
Yeah, maybe like the very end of his career.
Right.
But like Jokic and Doncic, they're not like, you would never say they're like Karl Malone or something in physical body type.
Right.
Like the European basketball has a different thing. Like for example, I know Jokic is always like, I don't practice basketball during the off season. He wants to like have fun, and Doncic wants to smoke and drink, and
it's a little bit like Steph Curry in that sports hasn't, except for baseball, right? They don't know how to sort of quantify eye-hand coordination. So you get these guys who don't seem as athletic as everyone else, but their brains and their hands are far superior than everyone else. And how
Shaq like to live that way too.
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Shaq's in better shape now than he was when he was on the Suns.
Right.
But actually in baseball, the bigger you are, the farther the ball goes and the faster the ball pitches. So if you're a fat pitcher, the ball, you'll have more velocity. The pitches are firmer.
Right.
If you're a fat hitter, the balls will go further. So there is like it's just mass.
It's physics.
Right? It's just mass if you're a bigger human being. That's why like you have these kids in like 10U baseball who are like my height and they're just smacking the ball. You're like, well, dude, yeah, you're like 5'10" playing on like a little person's field. Of course you're going to be hitting the ball.
It is so funny, because like sports is broken down by weight classes. And I'll never forget in high school, like my best friend joined the wrestling team, but he was a little out of shape when he joined, and he like joined to get in shape. But the first wrestling meet, he didn't have like time to get in shape by then. So I go and I'm like watching everyone wrestling. It's like all these little guys matching up. And then I see this one guy who's just like jacked on the other team, and he's not gone and my friend's not gone. And finally they call my friend up, and because he's overweight, he's paired up with the guy who's pure muscle, and the guy just destroyed him instantly. And it was so funny to watch because again, you're just matched up with your weight class, not your skill class.
Right.
So there have been persistent rumors about Babe's race, specifically that he was black or mixed. Some of the reasons why people thought this was that he had relationships with African-American women and was friendly toward black players, fans, and black celebrities. And he supported integration in 1947.
This guy's not racist. He must be black. It's the only explanation for his lack of overt racism.
Well, back then, that might be true, though. You either hate more or you like more, maybe.
Well, I will say this too, like in reading and researching a little bit for this, because they called him the Bambino, I always thought, he's like
He's Italian, right?
And there's like both his parents are German. And that's just something a person who's black would say. They would say, I'm the most white I can find.
Yeah.
Like, you look like that, and both your parents...
Germans' history of liking other races.
No, I know.
Storied history.
Right. And so to throw people off the scent, you would say German. Because Italian, you might be like, that's... even if, I'm a French extraction or whatever, but German is like, listen, we don't even have to have this conversation. I'm German. Keep it moving. You know what I mean?
I do often think, like, it is often funny to me in baseball how, like, the sanctity of baseball is always so important. And they're like, we can't have steroids in baseball because it ruins all the statistical accomplishments. But I'm like, you're talking about statistical accomplishments of people who are playing non-integrated. Like, you're definitely skewed more by not playing against the greatest athletes of your time than steroids. Than most people being on steroids.
They've allowed like the Negro League stats in now.
But those stats are skewed because they weren't playing with the other, again.
Right, they weren't playing with the best white players.
Well, the other thing is the stats weren't kept very well.
Plus, somebody who like doesn't like black people could have gone to like their record keeping house and been like, well, what if we just set fire to these games? I guess he's got way less home runs now.
Oh, and the crazy thing is...
I only trust the Jewish League stats.
Right.
To be completely honest.
Right.
I can make that joke.
And when when Hank Aaron was about to break Babe Ruth's record, he got all his hate mail.
Death threats, yeah.
Which is kind of crazy because it's like sports is this meritocracy thing. And to be like, if you break this record, we're going to kill you. And then on top of that, the guy that you're trying to save may have been black.
Well, I think there's one thing we know. It's that racist people are not very bright. Like,
Right.
that's a lot of brain power to devote.
Well, speaking of that, I know that this isn't race related, but interestingly, like one of the things I think is like the biggest terrible things that have happened recently is the legalized sports gambling across the country.
Oh my God.
I could not agree with you more. Like, it's
a
horrible.
cancer on society.
Let's just ruin lives left and right. But also, I'm watching the tournament the other day, and their commercial came on. They're like, just because you like to sports gamble doesn't mean you should harass and threaten college athletes. Like, college athletes are getting threatened now.
Right, because like, you messed up my parlay.
Exactly. Like, it's horrible beyond the things I already thought were horrible about it. Anyway, this message was brought to you by DraftKings. Ruin your family's life.
Ruth's adopted daughter said this. Daddy would have had blacks on his team. She cited this as one of the reasons why her father was never given a chance to become a manager.
Ooh.
Oh.
Yeah, and they said they never let him own a team either. But it seems like they could have just said, hey, babe, don't do this.
Yeah.
But once you're there, they can't stop you. So Babe was taunted for his wide nose and full lips. Even some of Babe's contemporaries thought he was black. Ty Cobb was supposed to share a cabin with Babe, but Ty refused, saying, I've never bedded down with an N-word, and I'm not going to start now. And a Giants player called him the N-word during a game, which made Ruth come after him after the game. And interesting enough, so Babe Ruth, went to the guy's locker to confront him. Say what you want about me, but don't bring up the personal stuff.
Yeah.
He didn't say, I'm not black. What the hell are you talking about? He said, don't bring up the personal stuff. That's
crazy.
It's kind of interesting, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm looking at these pictures and I go through them and some like, this is definitely not a black guy. This is just a white guy. And then I keep going and then I'm like, nope, this is definitely a black man.
It depends on the picture. Yeah, it depends
it's like
on the
every
picture.
fifth picture, you're like, no, I see it.
But in America, race is like the original sin, right? So like one drop of blood has always been black. Like if you have one drop of blood. So like even if he's like 99% white or whatever, German, and 1% black, then he's black. And
no, I think he's
right?
for sure mixed to some degree.
And by the way,
I
I can see it either way. Yeah.
That is not a white guy.
Yeah, that's just lighting.
Okay. Well, one thing, maybe
You're like, he's just standing in the shadows, Cat.
Well, I guess two things really quick. One, did you know the first Japanese baseball broke the color line before Major League Baseball? I don't know if we talked about this.
Basketball.
No, baseball too.
No, because the first black person was in 1900s. Or 1800. There was black players.
Well, yeah, and there was a black guy named Moses Fleetwood who played a little bit, and then
Cap Alston said he doesn't want to play a black person.
But there was, 10 years before Jackie Robinson, the Yokohama Bay City All-Stars had a black dude.
Oh, really? Okay.
They scrimmaged against the Negro Leagues, and one guy they took a liking to, and he went and played. So the second wave of breaking it was them. Also, just another quick thing. When Jesse Owens won the Olympics with Hitler in the audience.
Who's that? Wait, who's Hitler? Sorry. Oh.
The guy who came in second, right, who no one talks about, also an American named Mac Robinson, Jackie Robinson's brother.
What?
Yeah, so Mac ran so Jackie could run, hit, and failed. Yes.
I have a great Jackie Robinson story. So one of my docents, I used to work at the Japanese American National Museum, and one of my docents was a track runner at PCC, Pasadena City College. And he said that one day he was, they were running track and they were doing practice, and then they were watching the football team, and Jackie was on the football team, and Jackie was like, "What are you guys doing?" "Oh, we're racing." He's like, "Can I race?" So he takes off his helmet, gets on the thing, and he just burns everybody by like 3/4 of the thing, because Jackie was just an elite athlete who just burned him. He was like, "I thought I was a fast runner until I met Jackie Robinson." I was like, "I am not a fast runner."
It's good to get that information.
Yes, it's definitely good. Okay, good.
Okay. So what if Babe was black? Would his career have been any different? Like, we do know how it would have gone. He would have been Josh Gibson, a Hall of Fame catcher, one of the greatest hitters of all time, maybe the greatest. In fact, he's MLB's all-time leader in batting average, slugging percentage, percentage and OPS, but nowhere near as famous as Babe Ruth because he was African American playing in the Negro Leagues.
Babe wasn't the only one who people thought might have been black, but because of his importance to America's pastime and Americans' culture overall, if it were true, it would have been a very important secret to keep. While doing research for this episode, I found out that some people suspected Ludwig van Beethoven was also black. I did not know that. Did you guys know that?
I've heard that before. The pictures don't, but it's hard because
There's no
the
pictures.
pictures are
drawings.
paintings. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, it's time to put on our thinking caps. Was Babe Ruth actually black? When we return, we'll settle this once and for all and figure out what really maybe happened.
Now that we've reviewed the evidence, let's give our theory.
Who wants to go first? You want to go first?
I think Babe Ruth was Asian.
I was going to say that actually, but then I was like, well, I can't.
They're
Because
very good at baseball.
Well, right, exactly.
Yep, there you go. I think he's Shohei Ohtani's great-great-great-grandfather.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all.
That is my only evidence.
Here's what I would say. I think that he's melanated, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I
what does that word mean?
just
He has
some-
melon?
Yeah, melon. Yeah,
A
yeah.
little more dark.
And I don't know, maybe that's not a word, but it's a thing people say. So I don't think he was black. I think I want to go with he was Native American.
Ooh,
Okay.
I was
which is
thinking
which
that
is so
too.
great because that means America's pastime, the best person ever at it was actual, true, original American.
Yeah.
Can I
So,
just say, I
yes.
think that's actually more plausible than that he's African American because,
Yeah.
like, you look at his features and it's not quite that. But then you're like, what is it? I can't play. That actually checks out, I think.
Yeah. And that would have been maybe okay, but they just said, let's just do the German thing and forget it. And that's why he was cool with black people because he understood, it was kind
He
of
was
like
a person
a
of color.
person of
Mhm.
color kind of thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, actually, to tie those two together, some people think that the Native Americans, the indigenous people, came on a land bridge.
So technically, Dwayne and I have the same theory.
But let me just say this because Native Americans
Right.
and indigenous nations people don't like that theory as
Okay,
a
never
whole.
mind.
Yeah, they don't want to be known as Asian because there are like Clovis groups that preceded the land bridge that were here before.
Right.
So
Oh, wow.
to be clear, but if you look at like folks in like Alaska or they do look very
Well, Alaska's right there,
Yeah, exactly. There's like a land bridge. But anyway,
Well, there's another theory. Some people think black people were already here
yeah, that's true.
and just enslaved, and they just said they brought them on a boat. But that would be, how many people would have to be in on that? That's so crazy to me.
Some people think the earth is flat.
It
Right,
is.
right.
It is flat.
Right.
Some people know the earth is
So I was gonna say that I thought he was actually a part black. This is not exciting. It's not a fun theory. I was gonna say Asian. I actually wrote Asian.
And I beat
but-
you to the punch.
Yeah, you beat me to the punch. But the reason I think so is his contemporaries were like calling him the N-word. And just like that's like such a specific thing to call somebody who, if you didn't think that they were actually black.
Yeah.
But like I can't tell you how many people in my life called me gay growing up. It doesn't and didn't make me any more gay.
Yeah. Or like the guy who created Napster, they called him Napster because he was a Jewish guy with curly hair. What's that guy? Sean? Whatever.
Is that real?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's why
The guy
that
that Justin Timberlake
that
played.
site was called Napster.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because
I didn't
that
know
was
that.
his nickname.
But I feel like at that time, you know how like we don't like it's not cool to call people gay anymore
Mhm.
as like an insult. Maybe that was just back then the insult that people used
Right.
to like that.
So you're saying they didn't think he was black, but he had
But, like, that was,
because of
like-
the
That's just
features,
how to taunt
they played
somebody.
with it a bit. Yeah,
Because
but
gay wasn't a thing. People were naming their kids Gaylord
right.
back at the time, like it's like a cool name to have.
Right. But then,
so the N-word was
but then Ty Cobb took it a little far when he wouldn't even room with him.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's just it's a
Yeah.
little bit
Maybe Ty Cobb was really gay. He didn't want to have to face that issue.
maybe he liked black men.
Right.
And so he was projecting.
In my sort of view, to me, it's such a funny type of racism to say Babe Ruth is black because it's kind of like the stereotype of like black guys have big dicks or Asians are good at math or Jews are good with money. It's like the compliment racism.
Right,
It's like this
right,
guy's
right.
so good at sports. no way
He had
he's
to be
white.
black. Yeah, that's true.
Like where does the real Babe Ruth's black come from? The fact that he dominated baseball in his day. They're like, no way a white guy could have done this. He must, he must have been black. It is like it is to me
That's
like
true.
that interesting type of like I call it like compliment racism.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. That's a good phrase. I like you coined that. I'm going to use that. Yeah.
Compliment
racism.
Compliment racism.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is that your theory?
That's my theory.
That's going to be your theory. Okay.
So that he your theory.
I think he's white, but I think it's like I think it's actually like a form of like
right.
I think it's like the Jews are good with money version of like, well, this guy was the best baseball player,
So he had to
so
be
he
black.
must have been black.
Because he's an athlete.
Because
Yes.
he kind of looks like Nathan Lane, and Nathan Lane isn't black. So
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. What's interesting is that you can get that in all shapes and sizes. Like I'll get people just because of my nose have like a little bit of a bridge. I've gotten weird things. Like I was at an audition once and a white lady came up to me, completely white. And she was like, I was adopted and we have the same nose. So we might be related. And that might have just been her wishful thinking, but like the Roman nose, like whenever people see something in you and they want to like separate you from your group, sometimes those compliments come in.
Yeah.
And they come in different ways.
Yeah, like even my son,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
so
Weird.
when he had his normal boy's haircut, which is like just a normal, not long, not short, people would like come up on him. The outfielders would come up, the infield would come up, and it was just kind of like disrespectful because he could hit it over their head. And then the moment he grew out his hair like a mullet, like a 1980s baseball player, all of a sudden people were like, oh my God, and then they back up. So it is like there's a lot about how a player looks, and that there's like a prejudice, there's like a visual prejudice when you see a player, right? Like you're always going to take the Aaron Judge 6'7", 275 over 5'7", 175 because you look and you're like, that guy looks like a fucking baseball player. But that's what actually, so side note, that's what analytics is supposed to do, right? Analytics is supposed to take away the prejudice of looking at the player. Like because it shows you what the player actually does, not what they look like. But the problem that I tell kids when they talk to me about this is they say, hey, they have to first look at you and they have to judge you and decide that you're good enough before they look at the analytics. Very rarely are they looking at the analytics first and then looking at you, right? They're like, first, oh, that guy looks like a baseball.
So you're saying that the best way to put together my fantasy football team is not based off of who's hot.
How about this? All baseball players now have to wear a mask. Like a hockey goalie, we don't know what's what, and then we just figure it out later. You know what I mean?
Well, there's very few black players in
nowadays.
Yeah.
That's a misnomer because they're black players. They just speak Spanish. You know what I mean?
No, but no African Americans from America.
Right.
Like Mookie Betts. There's very few now.
Yeah, baseball is kind of an expensive sport.
It's very.
Yeah.
Like I make a joke that like when I look at my son's team or my team, when you look at the bat rack, it's like literally like $9,000 worth of bats.
Oh wow!
You're just like, oh shit! Like my son, we just bought my son a bat. It was $500.
You know what's crazy? I just had to start like because I remember coming up in Brooklyn and like basketball. You always had to make sure no one stole it, right? And I would write my initials on it. And you could actually be so good at basketball, you could almost make it to the NBA and like having never owned a basketball. That's how kind of like universal the sport is. Like you could just go outside, play every day, and someone will have a basketball. From that, you can get good enough to like eventually play high school. You can't do that in any other sport. You couldn't just
soccer. There's people who are just in like
soccer's like that
Brazil
too.
and like a favela.
Yeah, soccer's the same way.
Yeah.
But
I think also just a lot of African American athletes veer towards the NBA and the NFL over the major league.
Sometimes it's based off of representation and what you see having already happened.
Some athletes said this, and I think it's true. If you can make it into the NBA, you play in the NBA. That has the best athletes because if you have the ability to get to the NBA, you go there above all else.
Although like Barry Larkin, there's a great story about Barry Larkin, shortstop, Cincinnati Reds. He was
his son played basketball too.
Yeah, he got recruited as a running back for the University of Michigan, and they wanted to redshirt him, and he's like, I don't want a redshirt, and he's like, I'm just gonna play baseball this fall.
Right.
And then he started playing baseball, and then he became a Hall of Fame baseball player.
Yeah.
Is that crazy?
And I think my thing is if I was good enough to be a pro, definitely basketball would be my first choice. But then it'd have to be baseball because
so you can play forever.
Also, who wants to get hit? Like, I can't imagine putting myself in a position where I'm getting hit.
But like, it does feel like LeBron probably would have been the best athlete at whichever sport.
Yeah, if he was like a soccer player, could you imagine him as a soccer player?
Yeah, he would have been a tremendous football. Though he wouldn't have been able to play till he's 40. I don't think, because
maybe
of
not till he's. I mean, Tom, but he probably would have been playing a position like tight end. Or
right.
Well, in Ohio, he was like one of the number one football players, and then he chose basketball because he's also number one.
Allen Iverson too was a great quarterback.
Charlie Ward, Heisman Trophy winner, then went to the NBA instead.
Right. That was crazy. I mean, he had a good career, but I don't think he got drafted though.
He said if he didn't get drafted first round, he was going to the NBA.
Right.
It's time for us to pick the unofficial official story, one that will answer this question once and for all. So, which theory do we want to go with today?
So we have he's Asian, he's black, he's Native American, he's white, but people just can't believe it.
I like
because
he's white.
He's so good.
That's my favorite one. Josh's theory. So I vote for Josh's theory.
Compliment racism.
Yeah, that's my favorite theory.
I like him being a Native American.
I like him being Native American too.
Oh, so 2-1.
You can tie it up, and then I don't know what the procedure is.
But it's my theory.
You can vote for your own theory.
I'm very.
You can vote for your own theory.
I very much.
There's no shame.
Stick with my own theory.
Right. I voted for my own theory. So, but I can switch mine. Because
right. Because you enjoy compliment racism
no, just because it's sort of like.
So what are we gonna do if it's a tie?
Right. No, also because like I don't want to be a person who can't believe a white guy could be that good. Like obviously a white guy could be. We have Nikola Jokic, we have Larry Bird, Tom Brady, Luka. Yeah, it goes on, and even we're talking skill, but even athleticism, right? We have examples of
the assortment of Manning brothers,
supreme athleticism. So as much as I would love for him to have been black, but I really wanted him to be Native American only because I think it's a nice tie-in. But maybe he was just white or mainly white, and so we don't really do the one drop thing as much as we used to. So
well, can I throw one last thought I had in that does sort of support the Babe Ruth is black idea. A lot of this probably does come from like how much it's like one black guy played golf and he just won for like 20 years straight. Two black women played tennis and they just won for like 20 years straight. It's like when you do finally enter someone into the prohibitively expensive white league that is black, they do tend to dominate. But I still stick with my theory. I still think that if baseball had just been integrated back then, Babe Ruth wouldn't have been as impressive.
No, I think he would have still been the best.
He would have still been impressive, but it would have been more other impressive.
Also, to be clear, he changed the way baseball was played, right? Because before it was like a dead ball era. He really like changed.
Yeah, when he hit 50, I think no one had hit more than
there were teams. Yeah, there were teams
20.
that he hit more home runs than like he personally hit more than some teams did.
Guys, that is the official story. We'll take another break and we'll ask the question that you've always wanted to ask.
Since we discussed Babe Ruth being possibly black, which we know he's not anymore, but let's switch it up a bit. Which African-American athlete is actually white? I have my answer.
Yeah. What was that?
Karl Malone.
That's not bad.
Because he wears cowboy boots, cowboy hat. He like talks like a white dude.
Does he have a trucking company?
He has a trucking company.
Like
He's like he played in Utah for like 50 years.
You think Karl Malone was get outed?
Yeah. Because like most players,
Karl Malone is like probably what I imagine would happen if Jerry Jones uploaded his consciousness to Karl Malone's body.
You know what else?
And he also played he didn't play an exciting form of basketball.
I was just gonna say. What I like about that is him being maybe get outed. Maybe there's a white guy in it because he was so athletic. So if a white guy picked a black guy's body, like in the movie Get Out, so I'm going to just enter this guy. I'm going to play an NBA. You see how like his signature dunk was just him putting one hand behind his head, which is really kind of a white thing to do. Like, like it's kind of like a thing a white person would do thinking it was cool. Like he could do anything, 360 spin, and he just, kind of like the Fonz. That's how he dunked. He put his head. I'm aging myself, but yeah, So I love that.
Also, Carmelo, this is a majority white thing to do. He's got like questionable like child molestery.
He does.
He does.
Yeah. I think it's why he like doesn't get invited to all the events.
Well, anytime Carl, like in the internet age today, anytime Karl Malone's at a thing, the internet goes child molester.
Oh shit! Wow.
So it is like,
and the NBA has to kind of like, it's like walking on hot coals. That's really
Is the reason
funny.
they don't invite him to everything is that some things are too close to his school?
I don't know for sure. I like that he got like a 13-year-old pregnant, which is pretty child molestery.
Yeah, I don't know how old he was.
But look up the
but
actual facts, because I'm saying what I think it is.
Well, it's actually half your age minus 7 is the roll down.
Right.
Sorry.
That's funny. This is a tough one because a part of me wants to say Steph Curry because that would, I think white people would be like, yes, you know what I mean? And he's probably has some, of whiteness in him. But I'm going to go with Chris Jackson, or his that's not his name anymore, but it's Raul Mahmoud.
Oh, yeah. The Denver Nuggets.
Because I think he never knew his father from what I remember. And I think his father was white, but he never knew him. So my theory is the way he plays, his father was Pistol Pete. That's what and he's from Louisiana, or Mississippi, so not too far. So I think somehow his father was Pistol Pete and never really figured that out, but he got the super basketball skill and he was an amazing basketball player.
Feels like it's an offensive thing for me to have an answer to. And I also feel bad about the person I'm going to say because they are good friends with a friend of mine. Oh. But I do feel like if anyone has the most white guy energy of a professional athlete that I can think of who's not white, it'd be Russell Wilson.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I can see that. He might be mixed race too, but yeah, Russell Wilson, yeah.
Russell Wilson, Broncos, let's ride. He
says things that are
like they seem like it's just like you're missing some swagger, Russ.
Yeah, he says things that like your dad or your junior high school vice principal might say. Like just in his interviews. Yeah, I like that a lot.
One of my good friends was his number one wide receiver in high school.
Oh, wow.
That caught the championship winning touchdown
from
him.
Nice.
And then became a redshirt college athlete.
Right. Yeah, but it's weird because he won a Super Bowl.
He's great.
He should have won two.
But he also pisses off his teammates. His teammates hate him in general. So.
But I think it's not like the Kobe thing. I just think that he hasn't downloaded. He needs to upload a personality. And I think he strikes me as a guy that just played sports. And so like when he's speaking, he doesn't seem genuine. It's just because he never learned, you know?
You know what his personality kind of like reminds me of these days? Have you ever seen Major League 2?
Yes.
It's like Charlie Sheen in the first half of the movie when he's dating the hot blonde girl and he's like lost whatever that edge was. That's like Russell Wilson's personality is like Charlie
Especially
Sheen
when he's dating Sierra now. It's like when Jason Tatum won the championship last year and he's not a poet, right? He's a great, great basketball player, but like everything he said in the interview was something someone else had already said. You know what I mean? So he literally said, we did it. And then they show
Kobe doing it.
Kobe or LeBron. And then he said, what are they going to say now? And then they show Steph saying, what are they going to say? And it's like, you won the championship and you're plagiarizing other guys who won the championship. You know what I mean? It's just because you think that moment is supposed to be so special and maybe it is internally, but doesn't mean you're going to have this
word.
This thumbnail, this thing that's going to be sort of epic and said throughout the ages. Maybe you're just like, we won. And that's what I like about Nikola Jokic. He doesn't put that pressure on himself. He just is like...
He doesn't care.
Yeah, he doesn't feel the need to say something like really deep and profound. He's just, we won, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'd like to go, not here. You know?
He wants to go race horses and stuff.
Yeah, I would want to go back to the cold Serbian winter. Look forward to that.
Thank you, Josh, for coming on with us. Please tell people where they can follow you and catch your stuff and everything.
Thank you guys for having me on. This was super fun. You can follow me on Instagram at Josh Edelman Comedy, on most of the other apps at The Edelmeister. You can find my documentary, Mentally Al, on Amazon. I have a special coming out soon called The Jew Rogaine Experience.
We truly appreciate your support and enthusiasm for our quirky, mysterious, fun-filled journey. Your curiosity and engagement make this podcast a joy to create. Stay tuned for more intriguing stories, and remember to share, subscribe, and leave a review. Until next time, keep wondering and stay unofficially official.
In the next episode, we'll be asking the question, are there real Stargates on Earth? Have you guys ever asked yourself that question?
I don't know where to start.
I'm asking it now.
From the movie
Yes.
Stargate, you know, where like
What's a Stargate?
that's where like aliens come through to like
Like a portal.
like
Kind
a
of.
portal.
Yeah.
I think it's more likely that there are human robots on Earth right now.
Oh yeah.
I think
mean-
the Stargate is at the Republican National Convention. It's where they get their wives who look almost
Oh,
shaken
wow.
in the face.
I like that. Sometimes I think I'm a
Yeah,
robot,
because with
to
the
be
robot.
honest.
You're a robot.
I think I could be. And I think I could be a robot, and maybe robots are more humane than the humans.
Oh,
Just putting that out there.
there you go.
Possible.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.